America's the only country in the world that logistically can pull that off, but more importantly, has the will to pull that off.
Anyone that has a reason to wake up in the morning and go out and provide for their family or do whatever it is, like, you start to get this sense of pride.
Sometimes it's the individual's perception of their capability. That's the great barrier, is changing those perceptions.
When you think about the stories from the impact that y'all are making, are there any that just stand out to you as like, this is why you get up every day? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. This episode of Get In is brought to you by Indie Grills and Outdoor Living, the team that turns boring backyards into hangout heaven. They design and build custom patios, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces made for real life, from quiet family nights to hosting the whole neighborhood. Winter's the perfect time to start planning your dream outdoor space because Indie Grills Spring 2026 schedule is already filling up. If you want your new patio, kitchen, or fireplace ready when the weather warms up, now's the time to get in line. They're local Hoosiers, not a national chain. Just people who care about great design, quality work, and helping you love being outside again. Visit indiegrills.com and lock in your spot for the spring. Now let's get into today's episode. Today I'm joined by Jeffrey Mittman, President and CEO of Bosma Enterprises. He is a retired U.S. Army veteran. He was blinded by an IED in Iraq in 2005 and went on to become a national advocate for people with disabilities. He is known and self-proclaimed as the luckiest man alive. He now leads Bosma Enterprises as the president and CEO. He oversees the company, which delivers goods and services to commercial and governmental entities. They are also the only comprehensive rehab center for the blind in the state of Indiana. They provide vision rehabilitation to Hoosiers with vision loss. Bosma's mission is to create opportunities for Hoosiers who are blind or visually impaired. Today, we're going to dive into Jeff's story and talk about his almost 22 years of service in the United States Army. We're going to talk about the impact you continue to make today as president and CEO of Bosma Enterprises. And we're going to talk about the state of Indiana because this is the Get In podcast. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. I have had this one circled for a minute. I have known about Bosma for a while. I think I first met a member of your team maybe 2 years ago when I was kind of getting the podcast going, and they're like, hey, keep this story on your radar, and you guys need to meet, and you need to talk to Jeff and learn a little bit about your story. I've seen almost 22 years of veteran for the United States Army.
Yes, absolutely. It was an infantryman in the Army. Best job in the world.
Best job in the world.
It's
second best job then would be president and CEO of Bosma.
President and CEO of Bosma.
And that's how you become the luckiest man alive, boys and girls. What age did you get into service for our country?
Graduated from Warren Central on the east side of Indianapolis. Born and
Go
raised
Warriors.
here in Indianapolis. Graduated, went to college for a year, and decided, hey, college is expensive. So let me go off into the Army, have them pay for college. With the intent of staying 4 years, getting out, going back to college. Got in, loved it, stayed. And went to college. So I came out of the Army. Actually, when I retired, I finished with 4 college degrees.
4 college degrees?
4 college degrees. So that was through my service. So I was able to do both. I was able to serve my country and stay. And then, through 4 combat tours and all the deployments and the years overseas and the years away from home, just becomes a part of your life, your family's life, my wife, my children, me. All understand that. So you're all as a team. You work as a team while you're doing that. Just became our way of life and loved every minute of it.
So where's that 1 year of college at?
IUPUI.
So you graduate from Warren Central.
Go to IUPUI.
Head to down, RIP, Jags.
Yeah.
You head downtown. Well, I guess there's still a Jags, but it's not
There
IUPUI.
is, yeah.
So you head downtown, do that for a year, and then you're like, you know what? Let's go join the service. Where does that send you?
That sends me to Fort Benning, Georgia. At the time, was the home of the infantry.
Yeah. Did you know, was there a selection process where you're like, okay, you could drive a truck, you could do this? And
So I'll tell you, my whole career is always by saying yes. I don't put a lot of thought into my career moves. So I go to college, decide I want the Army to pay for it. I meet a recruiter who I just talked to, my recruiter, probably 2 weeks ago, by the way. It's been 36 years. I talked to him the other day. So I joined the Army. I go downtown, the old MEP Center downtown. First question he asked me, he said, "You want to be a combat infantryman?" And I said, yes.
Sure.
There I go off to Fort Benning, Georgia to be a combat infantryman.
Didn't even hear option
I didn't hear any of the other options.
Yeah.
But every career move I've ever made has been that way.
Yeah, you just said you want to be a combat infantryman.
It's the power of saying yes.
Okay, so that sends you down to Fort Benning, Georgia. Is that where you do like your basic training?
You do, yeah. You do.
How long is that?
Would have been about 13 weeks.
And had you been like, are you sports growing up, working growing up? Like, what was your background?
Both. I did sports. I worked. I was but that's part of the reason I loved it, the physicality of it. So every day I didn't have office hours, right? I was either on a road, marching down the road somewhere to arrange the train, or I was going out to the field, or I was deploying somewhere, or I was on a helicopter. I was whatever.
Was there ever a moment when you're getting there? Like, you said yes to the first thing that came along, and you're like, son of a gun, I wish I would have listened to the other options.
Well, it's probably when I was laying on the ground in Korea, and it's about 10 below zero, thinking, man, I should have been an accountant, right? But that always, years and years of that laying. Yeah,
you're laying on the ground in Korea in negative 10 degree weather. Okay, well, let's go, because you did 4 tours of duty.
4 combat
tours of duty. Yeah. What can you explain that combat tours versus just normal?
So obviously a combat tour. So I was in the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
Right. That's one. Then after 9/11, I was in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
With the 101st Airborne. And then I went to Iraq for the invasion. And then my last combat tour, when I actually got hurt, I was an advisor to an Iraqi battalion.
Wow.
So I had an Iraqi battalion that I would help plan, resource, and execute missions.
You finish up your time in basic training, Fort Benning, Georgia. Yep. I mean, you're at your combat infantry. So I'm knew day one, you knew that you guys were going to be activated somewhere.
Well, at some point in time, right? That's your whole life.
Yeah.
So you train for that. Happens sometimes it doesn't happen. Well, it happened.
What is the morale, I don't know, like locker room dynamic, let's say use a sports term there, of guys that are preparing to go active duty infantry? Like you guys are going to be in the front lines of the conflicts.
Right. So you hear it all the time. You're closer than family, right?
Yeah.
They become your brothers. Everybody goes to war for God and country. And then when you get there, you fight for the guy to your left or right. So that's what it really becomes. My best friend today, I've known for 30 years.
That's a quote.
Yeah.
Everyone goes to war for God and country, but when you get over there, you're fighting for the guy,
the person to your left or
to
right.
your left and your right.
Yeah.
Where was the first moment that was tested for you?
On a daily basis, I think, especially as I got senior and I was leading men in combat. So I had infantry platoons and I'm leading them into combat, and you realize their entire existence and survivability is on your shoulders. So you're seeing that. So you talk about taking things seriously and being hard. You're not being hard for the sake of being hard. You're being hard for the sake of their survival. And I think that's where it really clicks as you grow senior, and you've got 16, 17 years in the Army. Now you're a platoon sergeant, you're a first sergeant, whatever you are, sergeant major eventually. You take that on. And you internalize that, and you realize I have to know this kid. I have to know about him. I have to know about his wife. I have to know about his kids, his family, his background, because you spend 24 hours a day for a year with them. Yeah. And you get to know them, and in that process, you become very close, even to your subordinates and your seniors, but you become very close. So.
Yeah. What were maybe a few of the characteristics that helped you advance and become a leader of men in the Army?
I think it's always, I said the power of saying yes. I never shy away from anything. I always exceeded work ethic, right? Yeah. So if you're going to run 5 miles, I'm going to run 6. If you're going to walk 25 with 100 pounds, I'll walk 50. It's that push, the competition of it. You're competing against your peers, but you're also competing against your own capabilities.
Yeah.
So that's that push, that drive is what always kept me driving forward and going and going and going. And it's the same thing I applied today to Bosma. And, if you ask my team, they probably say I drive the hell out of them, but it's because we're trying to be successful and trying to meet our mission.
Yeah. What years? So where was your first deployment overseas?
Well, I was stationed when I graduated basic training. I went to Germany. I was in Germany for 2 years, and I came back and I was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Then I was in Korea for a year, and then I was at Fort Benning for 4 or 5 years. I was a drill sergeant in the very place I went to basic training at for 3 years. And then I went, where'd I go from Fort Benning? I can't remember. I went back to Fort Campbell and deployed, and Fort Drum is where I was actually ended my career when I got hurt.
So you really saw the world.
Yeah, quite a bit. I spent a couple years in Germany, spent time in Asia, spent a bunch of years in the Middle East and Central Asia. So it's a lot of people don't experience that in life.
Yeah, you talk about you do 1 year of college and then you're like, let's go join join the army. And
I'm in Germany in November, December.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So
you're talking about being in Korea. It's -10. You're laying on the ground. You're like, damn, I should have been an accountant. Like, was this like a training mission, or like, what are you doing in Korea?
We were out on what's known as the MPRC, which is a multi-purpose range complex. We were doing gunnery.
Yeah.
And it's the winter in Korea, and it's what it is. It's just cold.
It's just cold.
It's just cold. It's not like you have housing out in the field. You're actually out in the field, It's called a field because it is a field.
Because you're literally in a field.
Because you're living in the field.
You're like, man, I could have been crunching numbers on a spreadsheet back home.
Yeah, I could have been a teacher, whatever it was. Yeah.
But something. I mean, after that one, you could have gotten out at any point. Like you finished and what kept drawing you back in?
You grow to love it. So you actually, in a way, we have a term, embrace the suck. You embrace it as a lifestyle. It's just like a professional athlete who's working out 6 hours a day and they're exhausted. Same thing. That's your job. So it becomes a part of you and your habits and your daily habits and what you're doing, and you apply that to everything you do. So it becomes what is.
Yeah.
Right.
So you talk about serving in the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then again after 9/11, you end up in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Was there a change in maybe not necessarily mindset, but morale, or just like the purpose of what y'all are doing after September 11th, 2001? Like, does anything change?
Well, you got to remember in 2001, the homeland was under attack, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the force that's driving you forward.
I mean, and you talk about, serving for God and country.
Right.
It's like, this is,
God and country,
like to a T, right?
Yeah.
Like I was a young pup back in
Right.
2001, but I still remember, that there was just like for me, I think I was like in kindergarten maybe, and it was like it still rings out of like there was just something culminating and happening amongst Americans.
Right.
And how quick after that do you find yourself in the Middle East?
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
You're over there, and you guys are, I would say, working. That's like a very this is work. This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
At that
It
point,
is your job,
do you
right?
have a family at that
Oh
point?
yeah, I've got a wife, and at that point, in Afghanistan, my youngest daughter was born while I was in Afghanistan. My oldest daughter was 5.
How do you balance that? You have a wife and family at home, but you have this career as a soldier.
Well, you have to have a strong spouse, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Spouse. So I always say that my children never had a choice being born, to a soldier. My wife did.
Yeah.
So she married me, and here we are 33 years later, right?
How old were you guys when you got married?
I was 23. She was 20.
So you're still pretty fresh in your career of service at that point, right? Like 4 years?
No, I would have been, we got married in 93. So this would have been 01, 02. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, but when you got married in 93,
when I got
4
married,
years in, right?
Yeah.
So it's like she kind of gets it, and you keep. We're going back at it. We're going back at it. We're going back at it.
Yeah.
What's like a lesson that you've learned from your wife through, from her being the spouse of a soldier?
I'm not in charge at home, but you learn true dedication and love, right? So I leave for a year.
A whole year.
And then for a whole year. And then I come back and I have to reintegrate into the family. And it's about trust too, because now she's made all the decisions for a year. I have to trust that because I'm not here.
Yeah.
I have to trust that. So it's that trust, I think, that's built. And I think the people who are successful at it's based on trust. So.
Yeah, man, I think that one, it's courageous. And everyone knows, the life of a soldier, very courageous, very, challenging. And then you think about the wife of a soldier or the spouse of a soldier.
It's the overlooked element a lot of times.
Yeah.
The family.
Yeah.
The sacrifice of the family, the spouse, the
and
children.
You think about, like your kids too. Like that's hard too.
Yeah.
Especially then when we kind of foreshadow a little bit of like your career in your service has a lot of, let's say, adversity when you talk about what happened in 2005.
Yeah.
Can you take us to, was it July 7th?
July 7th. If you remember the day of the London bombings, it was the exact same day. I was on a 8-man advisory team, and we were moving out to link up with our Iraqis, go on a mission. I don't even know what mission it was. There were 5 of us going out, and one of our interpreters. It just so happens I was driving one of the vehicles that day. We switch out, so we're all senior NCOs or officers. And, you drive one day, you be in the gun one day, you command the vehicle one day, you just switch out so you don't get bored because you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And it was my turn to drive. A second vehicle in the convoy came down off, or a 2-vehicle group, came down off a on-ramp onto a highway, came under an overpass, came under the overpass, came out the other side, and then boom, they blew an ambush on us with an improvised explosive device, IED. That sent a projectile through my driver's side window, came across my face through the radios that sat to my right and out the other side of an up-armored Humvee. Left the hole the size of my fist all the way through it. Knocked me unconscious. Went up across the field, down into a canal full of water. And there I was unconscious. And my teammates, of course, in the lead vehicle, heard the fight, came back into secure the area, had a nearby patrol that heard the fight. Young medic, I don't know how old he was, 20, 21 years old. I was his first combat casualty. And he gets to me, and my team had got me out, got me behind cover because there was also some small arms fire and mortar fire, I guess, and treated me, saved my life on the battlefield. He got to me, thought I was dead. I'd lost my nose, my teeth, was bloodied, couldn't talk. They were able to get me onto a medevac bird, get me out to the green zone, if anybody remembers the green zone, which is probably only a 5-minute flight away at the time, on an operating table. And then I start to regress back to the old Walter Reed of Washington, D.C. So after getting hit on the battlefield, 72 hours later, I'm in Washington, D.C. at the hospital. It's an amazing feat. Logistically, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing that, I've always said that America is the only country in the world that logistically can pull that off, but more importantly, has the will to pull that off. Yeah. So I was unconscious for a month.
A month. So the recount, this is all other people, like this medic telling you about his firsthand experience finding you.
Yeah, my team. Yeah. After action review.
Did anyone else among your team get injured?
Yeah. One of my teammates was in the gun and had significant leg damage and concussion, and we ended up spending, I think, a year at Walter Reed together.
No way.
Yeah, before he retired and left. I was in the Army another 4 years as I went through medical treatment. So I spent the last quarter of my career in medical treatment.
So this is 2005.
Yeah, I didn't retire until 2011 because I was still in the hospital and in and out of the hospital and everything. Yeah.
Talk to me about the last thing that you remember, like first person you're in this driver's seat, and the first thing you remember.
I don't remember being in the driver's seat. My last memory, I was hit July 7th. My last memory is July 4th. And we were actually firing fireworks off for the 4th of July in the middle of Baghdad. And I was explaining to one of my interpreters what the 4th of July was. My next memory is sometime August 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th, my wife speaking to me at Walter Reed. And I couldn't speak to her. I had a hole in my throat and I was bandaged. I couldn't see, speak, or walk, or I was tied to the bed and everything. So I remember hearing her voice talking to me. My first reaction is, what the hell are you doing in Baghdad? Because I have no memory. I had no idea what had happened. And it took about 2 weeks to really come out of that fog because I was in a medically induced coma. Yeah. It took them a long time to wake me up, and you get all those drugs and everything, and then you're trying to absorb what had happened to you. So,
yeah, like talk us through the process of understanding and internalizing that, like, your life is now completely different.
Oh, it's completely different. So I remember she tells the story now, but she talks about, I would wake up, she'd tell me a story, I'd go back out, wake up, not remember again. She'd have to go through it. So my wife at the time is going through this over and over and over, right? And so she has to tell me, and I slowly start to realize, something's going on. So, I had multiple injuries. I lost my nose, lost my teeth, lost my lips, had right arm and left arm damage. And And I remember and lost the majority of my eyesight. My left eye was completely destroyed. My right eye, I have no central vision from the injuries. And I remember when I'm talking about coming out of the fog and coming to the realization how things would be different, when they had done surgery on my right arm, they removed my right index finger, which was my trigger finger. And I remember thinking to myself and saying something to my wife once I could, you know, by then I could speak, was, well, you know, I guess my career's over. They don't have much need for an instrument without a trigger finger. Not thinking at any point in time that I couldn't see either. So, you know, to me, I'm like, I can't pull a trigger. What am I going to do? Well, hey, stupid, you can't see either. So, you know, that's kind of the delirium you're in coming out of that and trying to absorb everything that's happened to you and realizing, oh, crap, well, my career's probably over now. So
now we're 20 years on the other side of this. And I don't know, remembering back. But in the moment, like the emotions that you're feeling, is it one of like, why me? Is it one of, I want to get revenge on these SOBs? Or like, how are you feeling internally dealing with this dramatic change?
It's funny you say why me. I can honestly say the only time I ever had a why me moment, it lasted about 5 minutes. And I'll tell you why real quick.
Yeah.
I had, it was about a month after I was hit. My wife was there at Walter Reed with me. One of my fellow teams had come under attack, and one of my close partners had been hit by the exact same type of device I was hit with and everything else. Instead of bringing him to Walter Reed, they took him to where the new Walter Reed is now, the Naval Center in Bethesda. So my wife had actually gone over to help his family and explain everything that happened. While they were gone, the eye surgeons had come in and talking to me, and they'd wheeled me down to the center at Walter Reed, and they were looking at my eyes, telling me the story, and they finally get to the point where they say, hey, Jeff, your vision's gone forever. It's not gonna come back. And about that time, my wife had shown back up, and she'd found me down in the eye clinic, and she got me in a wheelchair, and she's pushed me back up to my room. And quite frankly, I started to cry. I hadn't cried since, I don't know, Nixon resigned. I'm having, I'm going, oh my God, I can't see. I got a wife. I got 2 children. Why did this happen? So we get up to the room. She gets me into the bed, and she's sitting there holding my hand, talk to me. Does this day when I'm upset. She'll sit and hold my hand and talk to me. And as we're talking, we get word that my friend who she had visited had passed away and died. Didn't make it. And it was almost like a switch went off in my head. What are you upset about? You're sitting here with your wife, your children are safe. You're going to be okay. You just got to figure out a way to do it. So that was literally the only time I've ever, and it lasted 5-10 minutes, and that's why I say I'm the luckiest man in the world, not because my friend died, but because of the lesson I learned so early. Yeah. So early. So from that point forward, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Cause had that not the exact same, scenario that he's in, and a much worse ending.
Could have been me.
Yeah. What does the road to recovery look like from where you were in 2005?
I think recovery is a decision you make. You decide when you're recovered. Yeah, there's the physical aspects of it, right? And there's more I could have done, more I could do. I had 40 operations.
What were the things that had to be done?
A lot of plastic surgery. They had to rebuild my entire face. I broke every bone in my head basically. So they had to that's why some of my scars aren't related to injuries. They're related to the surgeries to replace other parts of my body. So taking parts of my ribs, parts of my bone out of my arm, taking an artery out of my arm to run blood to my new nose, to things like that. So there's a lot of reconstructive, a lot of plastic, a lot of orthopedic surgery, a lot of that going on. So
how long did it take for you to feel like, okay, like I'm not just gonna survive, I'm gonna thrive?
I don't know. I never doubted I would. I don't think.
Where do you feel like that spirit comes from?
I think it's partially the military training, right? Okay. So it's the military training, but I think it's a reinforcement of probably something innate that I have the internal drive to do that, right? Yeah. I'm not saying it's special. I'm just saying it's what's there. It's the same thing, if I take over Bosma, I'm going to be the CEO, and we're going to be the best we can be. If I do this, I'm going to be number one. It's the internal competition in me, partially, quite frankly. But then it's the military survival kick in and win. type mentality.
So it was another several years where you were still in the military, going through. I mean, you're in the hospital.
In and out of the hospital.
How long did you stay, like, kind of in and out of the hospital?
I was probably in initially 3 months, somewhere around there. But then I would have surgery, recover for a month, surgery, recover for a month, and then you eventually get to 40 operations, right?
Yeah,
so
like there's your time.
Yeah.
And then you make the decision to retire from the military?
Yeah. I told them I needed to retire.
What do you mean by that?
They could keep operating on me, right? There are more plastic surgeries they could do. There are more cosmetic surgeries they could do. But, at that point I was at 21 years, 7 months and 28 days, I believe. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to get on with my life and do something different.
Because you could have just, continued to try, like, rehab.
The doctors operate on you forever if you let them, right? So it's to your benefit, right? But and my doctors told me that. They told me that at some point you'll be done. And that's what happened. At some point you'll say no more. Yeah, that's what happened.
And so you get there, and then you have to go through this process of discovering what's next. Like, did you know, like, through those operations and stuff, like, what you wanted to do? No. You just, and then even when you retired, did you know what came next?
No. So, by the time I retired, I did. So, what I started to do is, in between operations, the Army allowed me to go out and start doing speaking events and talking to people and interviews and everything else. So I would go out and I'd do talk somewhere, and somebody in the crowd said, hey, that was a great talk. Why don't you come speak at this organization? So eventually what ends up happening was I do a talk at I think it was an Employee of the Year event for National Industries for the Blind. And then I come back the next year and I do another talk for them at their national conference. When I come off the stage, the CEO goes, Jeff, what are you going to do when you retire? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, why don't you come work for us? And I said, okay. It's just like my
first thing. Didn't take options.
So I've always talked about, I really don't set personal goals. And I know a lot of people don't like this. I don't set personal goals. I kind of prepare myself for opportunities.
Yeah.
So when it presents itself, I have to take it.
What was the organization?
National Industries for the Blind.
Okay. So you say, yep. And what are you doing for them?
I became a national account manager, believe it or not, for products going into the Department of Veterans Affairs, which, by the way, are Bosma products.
Oh,
now
a little foreshadowing.
Yeah. So Bosma is one of the affiliated agencies with National Industries for the Blind.
Yeah.
I didn't leave NIB and start working for Bosma. What I did was, and through my talks and everything else, somebody from Department of Defense had seen me, said, hey, why don't you come work for us? I said, okay.
Sure. So when you were giving these talks, what was the overarching message that you were giving?
I don't really have a direct message. So what I do is I tell kind of my situation, my recovery. And what I find is people apply their own lesson to their own life.
Yeah.
So I've done a speech in front of, probably I think the biggest crowd is probably 4,000 or 5,000 people. And when I go to leave, I'll have other veterans who relate it to their service and their injuries or their career or whatever it is. Then I'll have somebody else who's not a veteran who say, I kind of went through a hard time with my spouse and, was down. So they apply it to whatever situation they're in. So I don't really go into a room saying I'm going to teach you something, because I think it's a little presumptive, but you're grown. You're going to take your own lesson from it. So.
You're going to hear your story. Already when you say, like, your recovery is a choice, right? And you talk about this, you hear this news about your friend and you make this decision of, like, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself and I'm going to go figure out and, prepare yourself for opportunities.
Yeah.
So the next opportunity comes and you end up leaving the National Industry of the Blind.
For the blind.
For the blind. And go to the Department of Defense?
I worked for the Department of Defense for about 7 years. I ended up being the acting director of communications there for DFAS, for Defense Finance and Accounting Service here in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And while I'm doing that, the prior CEO of Bosma Enterprises had known me from my work at NIB and asked me to be on the board of Bosma.
Okay.
And that's how I get I'm on the board of Bosma, and then eventually, hey, won't you come be the CEO of Bosma?
Was business something that was in your acumen, in your wheelhouse growing up or in your time in the service?
Yeah, I'm a business major. I have an MBA. I have, so I think in numbers.
Yeah.
If I'm making a run, I don't think I'm 1 mile into it. I think I'm a quarter of the way done.
Yeah.
That type of, is how I process things. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So this was like in your wheelhouse, like, getting into business, making that transition.
And as part of the program that I worked in at NIB. But what's amazing is as I've retrograded back and I've got to know all the organizations across the country in the Ability One program, which is the program Bosma is a part of that employs people who are blind or visually impaired. A lot of the products that they produce in the program are the very products that they used on me on the battlefield and in my recovery, whether it's the surgical gloves and the examination gloves or it's the bandages they stop my bleeding with, are actually produced by agencies like Bosma across country.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes people say it's like, like, oh, we're saving lives, like, and it's like a lot, but there it is.
There it
There's
is.
The direct correlation, like these products ended up saving your life.
I always said, when I was an infantryman, I'd make a call and they drop something out of a helicopter to me. I had no idea where it came from. Well, now I'm on the other end of that. I'm seeing where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For us that don't know, talk us through what Bosma Enterprises is.
So Bosma Enterprises is 501c3, and we have about 180 employees, half of whom are blind and visually impaired, all the way from first-line workers up to me as CEO. And we are the largest employer of blind people in Indiana. But our main business is we provide examination surgical gloves, medical kits to the Department of Veterans Affairs. And we also domestic products to the Department of Veterans Affairs. And then we do a lot of other things like IT consulting and Salesforce consulting and things like that. But the whole idea is that we use that to employ people who are blind or visually impaired. And then we also have two other kind of wings to Bosma Enterprises. We have our programs, which is the only comprehensive blind rehabilitation program in the state of Indiana, where we serve about 1,000 Hoosiers across the state every year who are blind or visually impaired or lost their vision, in all 92 counties, by the way.
Hey.
And then I also have the Bosma Visionary Opportunities Foundation, which is there to raise money to support programs. In the long run.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at the Kelly Evening MBA program. On this show, we talk a lot about how people across Indiana navigate, change, and tackle what comes next. If you've been thinking about the next step in your career, but wondering how to make it work with everything else you've got going on, you're not alone. The Kelly School of Business Evening MBA program is Indiana's #1 part-time MBA, according to U.S. News and World Report. Built for ambitious working professionals right here in downtown Indianapolis, you'll learn from world-class Kelly faculty, collaborate with classmates from leading Hoosier companies, and apply what you learn at work the very next day. Whether you're looking to step into leadership, pivot industries, or strengthen your business foundation, the Kelly Evening MBA helps you move forward with confidence and without putting your life on pause. Learn more about how the Kelly Evening MBA pays off at go.iu.edu/evening MBA. That's go.iu.edu/evening MBA, or check the link in the description of this episode. We have it down there. Go check it out. Our friends at the Kelly Evening MBA program are awesome. Now let's get back into the episode. The starter is that this is a 501c3.
It's 501c3.
Nonprofit organization. Yeah. A lot of times those are charities. That is like literally.
That's what people think. It's charity, but Bosma is really a business with a mission. Our mission is to provide those opportunities to people who are blind, whether that's through employment in our warehousing distribution centers, or it's through the training in our programs, which is, rehabilitation training, it's employment training for people. And it's, we also have a senior program where we go into the homes and help people later in life who've lost their vision maintain their independence and age in place.
How did Bosma get started?
Gosh, Bosma started in 1915. It was originally a state agency. 1915? Yeah, so we're 110 years old this year.
Holy.
And I haven't been there the whole time.
Yeah.
But they started as a state agency about 1988. They privatized it. It's named after Charles Bosma, state senator, who had a big heart and a push to help people with disabilities in the state. His son was Brian Bosma, who was Speaker of Indiana and is one of the founding board members of Enterprises when it was privatized, and is still on the board today.
Okay. Take me through that. Yeah. 1915.
1915.
If someone was blind or visually impaired in 1915.
Yeah. They made brooms. That's kind of it. Yeah.
They made what?
Brooms.
brooms.
Made brooms. That was really what they did.
And is that like what this organization helped them do?
Yeah. So it was a state agency to employ people who are blind. Yeah.
Like how many employees do you, like
1915? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like
it was very primitive because back then, obviously, the perception of somebody who's blind is they have very limited capabilities of doing that. Right? Nobody would ever thought 1915 that the CEO of Bosma would be somebody who's blind.
Yeah.
Or that my guys who are in the warehouse can use technology, be visually impaired, and go up into a rack, 3-4 racks up in the air and pull product out because they have the technology to do it. Technology is a great equalizer.
Yeah. Well, and like the opportunity, like
the opportunity to do that.
You talk about purpose and like having, I don't know, just like a job. Like, I don't know. I think that anyone that has a reason to wake up in the morning and go out and provide for their family or do whatever it is, like you start to get this sense of pride that comes with this.
You get the sense of pride and purpose, right? And what you're doing is independence really comes through economic independence. Yeah. If I have the resources, I can do whatever I want, whether I'm sighted or not. And what you find is that people who are blind, only 56% of the people who are blind or visually impaired are not working. And a lot of that's through, I think, other people's perceptions of their capabilities, but sometimes it's the individual's perception of their capabilities. Yeah. And having to change that's the great barrier, is changing those perceptions, whether it's their own or somebody else's and their capabilities.
Let's say maybe you grow up somewhere where there aren't a ton of, maybe there's none. Maybe you're the only blind or visually impaired person.
I am the first blind person I ever knew.
Isn't that crazy?
So I woke up.
And it's like, but then you go through, let's say you go through years and everyone is constantly saying, they feel bad for you. They are sorry for you. And like, and if that is the life that everyone, and it's like, you maybe start to feel like, oh yeah, you're right. Like maybe I shouldn't go work or shouldn't go do this thing. Or like,
maybe I can't.
Yeah. Or maybe you can't.
Maybe you can't. So yeah, you see a difference in that. You see a big difference in that. And where we see it a lot is in our rehabilitation is a lot of times the barrier to get people there is their families. Because the family's reluctant, not sure it's safe, not sure it's appropriate, not sure it's the right thing to do. Just because they haven't been, it's not an evil choice on their part. It's the lack of knowledge of what's available and what's possible. So
more than likely, they never knew anyone that was blind.
Yeah, more than likely. So it's a low incidence disability, quite frankly.
It's a what?
Low incidence. There's not a lot,
Like how many blind people are there?
Yeah, you see people in a wheelchair quite often. Yeah. Or in a car, but you don't see people who are blind. Part of that's it's not that they're not there. It's there's a lower occurrence of it, but there's also they tend not to be out in the public.
That is fascinating, and it is interesting that you talked about that your recovery was a choice for you. You're like, I'm gonna figure out what comes next. I'm gonna say yes to these opportunities and keep going. You end up as the CEO of Bosma. Right. Leading, you said there's 170 employees?
170. Yeah,
so that would mean you were the, 85 people who are blind or visually impaired?
About 85, yeah.
And that's the number one employer of visually
blind people in the state of
blind
Indiana.
People in the state of Indiana? Yeah. And look, what kind of jobs are they doing at Bosma?
So some are working in the warehouse, right? Some are pulling shipments, some are shipping, some are doing packaging. We do a lot of kitting and everything for the VA and other customers. So they're actually doing kits, running shrink wrap machines and other items. Some of them are my salespeople. Some of them are my VPs. Some of them are doing my social media. And some of them are working in my programs, teaching other blind people. So it's throughout the organization.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the programming. You said you serve all 92 counties in Indiana?
Sure do, yeah.
Like, what's the entry point usually of someone coming into your programming?
The entry point, usually what we have is they're working with the state vocational rehabilitation center, or they call us because they've heard of us, or they've gone to bosma.org and sent in a request, and my team's reached out to them. So when you have somebody who's blind or visually impaired and they go to the state for help, state VR will refer them to Bosma. Bosma will evaluate, determine what they need. Some people need to go back to work. Some people need to go to school. Some people need to stay with us for 16 weeks in our residential rehab center. And you do that evaluation, you give them what they need to be successful, right? So there's a lot of that. And then when you have your seniors, we're going into their homes, helping them, adapt to loss of vision. A lot of times it's age related, it could be macular degeneration or something else they've lost their vision to, helping them adjust to their environment with a lack of vision.
One thing about people who are, getting up there in age is change is hard.
Change is hard.
With your eyesight, change is hard.
Yeah.
Like whether you get moved into different facilities or places like that, that can already be a change. And now you talk about adding in visual impairment on top of that. That's a lot of change.
Not knowing where to go for the resources. Right.
Yeah.
So you've lost your vision. Like, oh, well, like we said, who do you know who's blind? So what do I do? Where
Jeff.
do I go? Yeah. Now you know Jeff.
Now I know Jeff.
You call me, I'll hook you up. We're good. Yeah.
So when you think about the stories that you hear from the impact that y'all are making, are there any that just stand out to you as like, this is why you get up every day?
Yeah, that's why you get up every day. So we have employees, we have clients, and they all have their own individual story. But it's the renewal of hope, right? Or it's the employee who's now sent their kid to college. It's their client who's now bought a home. They're now a homeowner, or their kids are in college, or they're independent. They're no longer on disability payments. They're whatever it is. It's that opportunity you're providing them. Now, again, we provide the opportunity. They have to take it, right? So it's the hard work that goes into it. But when they do, and you see that change take place, it changes their perception of the future or the possible, right?
Yeah.
What's possible now. And you hear that over and over and over, and it's pretty amazing.
Is that challenging to lead and to get people, like you present this opportunity, but like I'm sure the success rate of everyone that like thinks the way you think and want to do things the way that you want to do and all that stuff is not 100%.
No.
I'm sure that sometimes you run into barriers there. Is that a hard thing to balance of like, I mean, obviously you are, visually impaired and not everyone that has the same disability will have the same mental outcome and the same thought process behind it.
Right. I don't know that it's hard to balance.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think the numbers tell me that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The numbers mine. So, but I think what we have to be aware of is, I'm not a savior. What I can do is offer you the opportunity, show you the opportunity, assist you in meeting it or taking advantage of it. But you got to do it.
How long have you been the CEO at Bosma?
About 6 years.
6 years ago. When you came in, were people maybe a little apprehensive to like drill sergeant, Sergeant Jeff coming in here to?
I think they still are in some cases, but yeah, I can tell you I don't wear my heart on my sleeve, right? Because I'm thinking, okay, here's the opportunity. Here it is. Let's go.
I mean, some people process emotions different, and they process this adversity different than the way you did.
Absolutely.
How do you balance that with also you presenting this opportunity and you want to keep getting better and you have this internal competitive drive to go be the best?
I have good staff around me who can do that, right? So I think what I really like is I'm out in front, obviously in the world, in the community, representing Bosma on an individual basis. Right. I have people who that is their whole life is working with that client and adjusting to that client and giving that client what they need. Right. Because when I look at something, I may not. Yeah. When I'm talking about somebody who's coming into a rehab center.
Okay. Yeah. This is like somebody who's
lost their
impaired.
vision and they're coming in. Yeah. So I have a whole team of professionals out there that's their day-to-day, everyday life is doing that and working with them and providing them what they need, because my experience is different than their experience, right? And so I have rehab specialists who are trained to do that. I have counselors who are trained to do that, right? My true job is to spread the message and provide resources. That's really my true job, and be the spokesperson and tell the story of the good things we do.
Yeah.
Right. And I do work with people, but on a day-to-day, it's my staff, whether it's on the business side or the rehab side, who's working constantly to provide them and help them along. And again, but it still comes down to you got to want to do it, right?
Yeah. It's been over 20 years since your injury. How has technology and the innovation and advancements there changed your life?
Well, technology, as I said, is a great equalizer. So, computers speak to you. You can make a computer speak to you. I can make my phone read things. I can take a picture of something. My phone will read it to me. When I get a text message, which is sometimes embarrassing when it's read in public, but I get text messages and I can have it read out loud. Yeah. I don't have to see it, right? So when I'll give you an example. When I worked at National Institute for the Blind, I was working with a contracting officer in Colorado. Talked to him every day, providing information. Had no idea I was visually impaired, and I showed up at their office for a meeting. Had no idea I was visually impaired. And that's because of the technology. So the product they receive and the communications they receive and everything was the same.
Yeah.
So they had no idea.
Yeah.
That's the technology that levels the playing field.
Isn't that great? And then you're like walking through the grocery store and your wife's like, I love you so much, sweetie. Like, see you soon, and gets read out loud and you're good to go.
Yeah. Or whatever it might be. Yeah. Some of my friends may say something different, but yeah. So it's great.
Like, yeah. You got to give the not safe for.
There's a couple of infantry words used on occasion. Right?
Yeah. So, exactly. Are there other ways or other big innovations for people who are visually impaired? Obviously, the phone reading it out to you and AI in that piece.
Well, we're looking, I've got an AI group now looking to the future. How do we apply AI not only to our work inside the enterprises, but how do I use it in rehabilitation of people who are blind or visually impaired?
Yeah.
Whether that's goggles that tell you where you're at, whatever it is, I'm not smart enough to know. That's why I have other people, right? Yeah. So we are looking at that, and I think AI is going to be a big push when it comes to the rehab side. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. The applications, it's going to be a lot like when I'm in the military. A lot of our civilian applications were originally military.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a lot of applications now that we may not see as used for the blind in the near future. What
are ways people like me, people like just general people that listen to this podcast can help, one, support Bosma and also be more cognizant of, those that might have visual impairments in Indiana?
Yeah, I think, obviously Bosma.org, go to our website, send us a question, call us. We're happy to help out. If you know somebody who's blind or visually impaired, send them our way.
Yeah.
We're more than happy to do that. I think it takes research. Please visit, donate. It's all right there at Bosma.org, all the information you could possibly need.
Like from like a purchasing perspective, you talk about health and safety items. Is that ice melt?
Ice melt, we do ice melt, yeah. So if you have ice on your sidewalks, we provide ice melt.
I was gonna say, package, or is this like you guys have like customers that you talked about the VA and other places like that, but like can
you call up and buy it? Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of stuff are you guys creating?
So what you're gonna see there is a lot of medical items. So a lot of, again, the surgical gloves, the examination gloves, medical kits. As you said, ice melt. If you need technology, Salesforce, I have a Salesforce consulting arm that helps people with Salesforce IT. We have something that's called Blind Square. If you want to make your buildings accessible, we can put Blind Square in there. And what it really is an internal BPS system. So you download an app. If you're blind or visually impaired, the app it can tell you where you are in the building and where you need to go. So there's a lot of things out there. It's another technology that helps people who are blind. You see that we're putting those in, and you see it in some state buildings and universities and things like that.
Wow.
If you need help, we have the rehab. If you want to donate, you do it right on the website. So we're happy to help out wherever we can.
I love the fact that you say this is a business with a mission.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are doing incredible things. I also love on here, talk about packaging and warehousing with 99% plus accuracy rate, like
99.999. It should keep going. Yeah, it should keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like every piece of vibe that I get from you is like, this isn't charity necessarily in like the way that maybe some people think about that. This is, you are capable of doing incredible things.
They are capable of doing.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's about capabilities. Right? Yeah, it's about capabilities with the proper training. Right, it's proper training. We provide that.
Is there someone that may be blind or visually impaired that you get inspiration from?
I'm often asked this, like, who's your mentor? I think I have mentors for different things, but when I look across, the blind community, I guess you'd say, I look at the ones who have been successful leaders, I look at what they've done, how they've done it, take those lessons in, and the results of what they've accomplished. Yeah. But also look at people who aren't blind and look at what they've done. Yeah. And how they've done it and try to emulate that. So I think I don't necessarily look to blindness. However, when it comes to overcoming perceptions or barriers or communication issues, right? Yeah. That's where I go. So.
What would you say to the people that have valid reasons? Like, I think there are people out there that have valid reasons why they shouldn't succeed in whatever it is. You could call it. Right. You could call it sports. You could call it business. You could call it life. You could call it whatever it is. The odds are stacked against them. Yeah. What do you say to those people? And like, what's the encouragement or the motivation or just the mindset they got to have?
You know, in my mind, if I don't try, I know what the result is. I know what the end result is. If I do nothing, I know where I'm at. You know, it's what's up when I got hurt. You know, I think one of the other reasons I'm the luckiest man in the world is because when I got hurt, I was 35, had a wife and 2 kids. So my injuries never relieved me of my responsibility as a husband and father. That drove me too. Yeah. And because I knew if I did nothing, I was never going to get up out of the hospital bed. I know what that result is. I don't know what the result is if I push forward, but I know it's better than this. Yeah. So I may not ever be ruler of the world, right? But I'm going to be more than somebody who lays in bed all day.
Yeah. So I mean, you've been featured in U.S. Veterans Magazine. You've written for the IBJ. You've won, you know, lots and lots of awards and done a lot of very, very impressive things. 100 years from now, when someone goes back and listens to this podcast, what do you hope they say about you, Jeff? And what do you hope they say about Bosma Enterprises?
Well, hopefully, Bosma by that time will be, I don't know, employing 6,000 blind people across country or something, I'm sure. But me, you know, what they say about me, I hope they look to my children, grandchildren, and see that they're successful.
2005, 20 years ago, kids are all grown up.
They are grown. Yep. They're successful.
They're successful.
They're successful.
I mean, they have a heck of a role model to look up to.
Well, their mom's really good. Yeah.
Man, I think that your journey and your story through adversity, it is like intense, you know, like not everyone, and you know, most people in the world will not have that much adversity to endure in their lifetime, but it is a testament to whether, you know, you don't rate people's adversity versus another, but like whatever we're going through, there is this mindset change of, I think you just said it, you know what happens if you don't. Right. Like, you know the outcome if I do nothing, whatever you're facing. I know the outcome if I do nothing. Yeah. And I think that's just such a powerful testament, you know, whether it's your own journey with whatever it is, you know the outcome that happens if you do nothing. Right. And finding that internal drive and that choice that you made, that choice that we all can make every day, no matter what it is, to go out there and be the change that we, so that we don't know the outcome. I think that's one of the great parts of life is when you try and you put that effort in, you have no idea what's going to come down the pipeline.
You don't. And that's I said earlier, I really don't set individual goals because I find goals limiting. Yeah. Right.
Because you find it limiting.
I find it limiting.
And you never, I feel like as soon as I do that too, it's like I create this one goal and like this crazy thing pops up.
You ignore everything around you.
Yeah. You're like, and then all of a sudden the next thing comes up and you're like, wow, that wasn't on my goal sheet for the year, but that's pretty cool. That's cool. Well, we've come to the end of the show where we talk all things about the state of Indiana. Sure. All your times where you went, you know, whether it was Fort Benning or it was Korea or Germany or the Middle East. What was your favorite part of coming back home to the state of Indiana?
Was being home. You know, I've been all around the world probably 5 times, and you feel comfortable here. This is where I was born and raised, so I come back here. It's the Hoosier hospitality, quite frankly. That's what it is. You know, I live in New Palestine.
Oh, go Dragons.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, New Pal was way out in the middle of the country. Now I realize, man, it's like 10 minutes from where I grew up. It's like 15 minutes from where I grew up.
You're a suburb guy now.
So that feel of Indiana. It's the feel, yeah.
Was there like a specific spot? Like, okay, you get off the plane, you're back home, and obviously see wife, kids, family.
So obviously wife, kids, and family. Before I got hurt, my parents, when I retired, came back. My parents lived in Greenfield, and my in-laws lived in New Palestine.
Oh.
So before I ever retired, so when we come back, that's where we go. And of course, you're going out to New Palestine, and you got to go to Frosty Boy and get all that.
Everybody swears by Frosty Boy.
Yeah. No, my kids, opening day, my in-laws, my mom, my kids, they're all there. I don't like stand in line, but it's great.
Dude,
so,
I mean, Hancock County has exploded. I feel like over the past few years.
It has. I think we've gone so far north, west, and south. The only place to go is east.
The only place. Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
I love it. I've spent some time out in Greenfield.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot with that area. And New Pal's they're holding out though. New Pal likes being rural, very much so.
But I'll tell you what, there's got to be 20 new neighborhoods out there in the last 2 decades. So
that's wild. Okay, we've come to the part of the show where these are the same questions that we ask every guest who sits in that chair.
Sure.
So this question is brought to you by our friends at JC Hart. They're a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences at apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. My question for you, Jeff, why do you call Indiana home?
I was born and raised here. My wife is a Hoosier. My kids are now Hoosiers. And it's where my people are.
It's where your people are.
Yeah.
Amen. We've all got people here, man.
Yeah.
As you traveled around the world and you tell people, I'm from Indiana. If you could just shout it from the rooftops, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
It's not all cornfields, right? I'll tell you the greatest thing that ever happened in Indiana was cable TV. I remember being in Afghanistan, and I said I was from Indianapolis. I had an Afghani soldier yell to me, "Oh, Reggie Miller."
No way.
Yeah, this would have been 2002. Told me he'd been watching the Pacers on satellite TV or something. Yeah, he knew Reggie Miller. Boom, baby, right? So we are more in cornfields. There's a lot here.
Legendary.
Indianapolis, central Indiana. Yeah. There's great towns all over the state.
Yeah. You mentioned Frosty Boy. This is your opportunity to share another part of the state that's special to you, that means a lot, that maybe not enough people are talking about.
Right.
What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
A hidden gem in Indiana, I'll tell you, is I love South Bend.
Really? What do you love about South Bend?
My wife's family's originally from there.
Really?
And when I go there, I feel, being from central Indiana, I almost feel like I've left my home area, and it's close, but it seems far away. Yeah. It's just a different vibe there. I think it's the Notre Dame thing, and it's the presence there of the university.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little different. Bloomington, I love Bloomington. Bloomington's one of my favorite places too. But when I go up there, you have Indiana, you're tied geographically to the University of Indiana. Notre Dame's such an international presence.
Yeah.
And
you talk about tradition, legacy,
right.
God,
and which
country,
we're building
Notre
in Bloomington now, by the way. So
yeah. I mean, Coach Signetti and the Hoosiers are rocking and rolling. We love that. Yeah. But I do agree. There's just something when you walk on Notre Dame's campus too. It just feels like there's something special there.
Right.
It's that classic God country Notre Dame.
Right.
Final question for you. This is your chance. This is where we get new guest recommendations and just learn about people doing big things across the state. Who's a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
I think Oscar Gutierrez. Oscar Gutierrez runs Boundaries. He does a lot of work with Bosma. He's on a Bosma board, but he does a lot of finance, does a lot of work with school systems and everything else. So I'd say Oscar Gutierrez.
Oscar Gutierrez. All right. We'll have to check him out. Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your journey. I know you're not necessarily a motivational speaker that was here to get me rah-rah fired up, but I am rah-rah fired up. I think it's really incredible, the mindset that you have and just the way, the work ethic, all the things that came from when you go down to Fort Benning, Georgia and join the service when you were a year out of high school to, obviously your injury in 2005 and the way that you still find ways to thrive today and the way that you're, inspiring and building this business that has a mission. I think that the state of Indiana is great because there are people like you here doing these incredible things. It's a pleasure to get to share the microphone with you for a little bit. Keep up the good work. And if people want to find you, if people want to find Bosma, how can they do that?
Bosma.org. It's that easy. Bosma.org.
Bosma.org.
There
we go. Well, I'm excited. If you are one of the people 100 years from now listening to this show, just make sure, well, you said employing thousands of people all across the country. That's the goal 100 years from now. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all my gear recommendations at Sweetwater. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.